I am so tired of coming on this podcast every single week and telling you to stop playing T.Y. Hilton. Like, just stop it.
Mikey needs help.
Mikey needs help.
I was like, if you don't have Jeff Wilson in here, and if you don't run it on first down, I'm gonna strangle you through that TV.
You should know better than everyone else. That fool tears you up when you plays you.
Yeah, but
Don't you want him on your team?
I have him at number 25.
Thank you. Fine. Todd's the reasonable one on this show.
I take issue with everything he said there.
Well,
I really do.
DeAndre Swift. He's gonna break them tackles, son.
That's bold. That's bold. That's putting your nuts on the table right there.
Hey, there's the first time for everything.
Waxing poetic over here with Todd Diamond.
Dude's old.
So what? He's not as old as Brady, and you're jerking him off before the show starts.
I have Sutton in my top 10. I have him at number 9.
Yes.
You know what? I'm just canceling the league. I can't do this with you guys. What is up, MHA owners? Week 1 is in the books, and we are ready to look back and tell you all about it. We'll tell you who did incredibly well on the first day on the job, who pooped in their big boy pants, and of course some surprises that really snuck up on us. Gentlemen, how we doing this Tuesday night? Todd's doing great. He loves t-shirts.
I sure do. Love them. I'm doing good.
Good to hear.
I'm doing fine. No more t-shirt talk, though. I mean, we're supposed to be talking football.
Talking fantasy football. A lot to get to, so we'll get right into it. And let's first talk about the draft. We were hoping to do a show post-draft that we could just talk about it for the whole hour. But, of course, things came up. And so we had to move it to here, and we'll talk about it briefly. But, guys, we'll start with Mikey. What stood out to you about the 20th draft of the MHA?
For me, it was just the run on quarterbacks. Normally, you don't see them just popping off the board as quick as they were, but I think it kind of changed the whole draft when Queen took one in the first round with that 5th pick, and it just kind of kept going. So, yeah, quarterbacks.
Yeah, we saw a couple go in the second round. Josh Allen at the beginning to NWA, who had that 12-13 turn, then Russell Wilson to end the second round. And didn't have one in the third round, but then you saw myself. I picked up Dak Prescott. I knew it would be a while before the quarterback or my pick came up, and I really wanted one of those top 3. So I went for it. And then it was a run after that. We saw Kyler Murray to Miguel, and then Aaron Rodgers to Kilgore Trout, and so on and so on. Todd, what stood out to you about the draft?
Definitely a little bit of, I think, surprises. I mean, obviously, you picking Travis Kelce because, you've always, not say you played it safe, but, you've always either got a running back or wide receiver, but going Kelce, I mean, kudos to you on that one. That was, knowing picking Kelce in the first round, running backs were definitely going to be, you'd have, trying to find a good, find a number 1 running back was going to be, tough after that because all the, probably all the top other running backs were going to be gone. So that was definitely surprising to me, for sure. You're kind of just thinking outside the box there and you're like, let's go get the best tight end. So that's probably the biggest thing that just was like, I wasn't surprised with the quarterbacks because Mikey mentioned it in the, in the quarterback podcasts, over the summer, was, quarterback wasn't as deep this year, that the drop off between a lot of the top tier quarterbacks were, gone. So, apparently, obviously, some of the owners listened to the podcast and took that into consideration. So that's what kind of jumped out to me a little bit.
Yeah, I think, picking Kelce, there's no such thing as a sure thing, but quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, really, they all get injured. And I just wanted to try the experiment. I thought about it, and if there were certain guys at that point, I probably would have taken them, like Devontae Adams. If he would have reached one more pick, I probably would have reached with him or any of those top 4 running backs. And I thought long and hard about Zeke, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to stick with it. I thought about it and at some point during the week, and yeah, it definitely worked out. And to have him and Tyreek Hill both with the Chiefs, who had a great week 1, makes me look smart now, but it's a long season. the thing that stood out to me was I thought Allen had a pretty good draft. I know it was unfortunate the way things worked out for this week, but not for the lack of a good team. I mean, he went with the right pick, and in my opinion, that McCaffrey with the first pick, and then he ended up going kind of the Seattle route, the Aaron route of 2020, where he stacked up on Seahawks, Wilson, Metcalf, and Lockett, and he still got George Kittle in the 5th round, which could be the steal of the draft. But he also ended up getting Juju a little later, and San Francisco looked good at the beginning, and the Detroit came back. But even got Ronald Jones, who I thought was a real good pick in the 9th round. So for Allen, who, I know he's a busy man and doesn't get to do as much research as some of us, but I thought he did a really good job, and his team put up a bunch of points. Unfortunately, the team he played put up a few more. So I thought that was great. And the last thing I'll say before we kind of move on with the news, for us podcasters, Mikey, Todd, and myself, we all drafted guys that we liked, and I'm glad that's kind of how it works out. Sometimes you don't get those opportunities, or maybe you're just talking out of the side of your mouth on some of these guys, but we all picked the guys that we were high on. Mikey picked Julio. Todd went with his boy Aaron Jones, of course, and then he got Jamar Chase, and I ended up picking up DeAndre Swift, Tyler Boyd, and Michael Carter. So we'll see if those guys that we talked a lot about and were high on end up panning out and making us look like geniuses. But I just like that we stood with our convictions and went with it. So that was kind of cool as well. Let's get into the news a little bit.
To me, the most amazing thing about the news is that whatever goes on in the world, it exactly fits the number of pages that they're using in the paper that day. Interesting concept.
And before we get to all the injuries, and there's a few of them, let's talk about the trade that went down before the season even started. I guess it was right before the season started, that Thursday before that first game went down. Notorious CUP started throwing out trade offers for running backs. He had Gus Edwards, and we all know by now that he's out for the season with a leg injury. And so Notorious CUP, I got a trade offer. Todd got a trade offer. And so, we were kind of texting about it a little bit during the day. And then eventually we saw at some point that someone accepted a trade, and that ended up being the Bishop Sycamore team, formerly of Bye Week, who ended up trading his third round pick, to Javonte Williams, for Notorious CUP 7th round pick of Brandon Ayuk. So, Mikey, I'll start with Todd this time. What did you think about the trade when you saw it on your phone?
Well, I mean, I know obviously he needed running backs. Obviously Javonte Williams went in the was picked high in the 3rd round. Needed a running back, and Javonte Williams, looks like he's going to get a lot of carries in this Broncos offense. So good for him. I mean, obviously, and then Miles obviously wanted a wide receiver, and I just don't know. And he didn't even play him, he didn't even play him. So, I mean, I guess in the short term, it works out for Notorious CUP. We'll see what happens, Miles. We'll see if because obviously, in that San Francisco game, there was a lot of points put up in that game, but he didn't get any. So take it with whatever it's worth in that situation.
Well, that was the PC answer from Todd Diamond. Mikey, what do you think about the trade?
I got to give credit to Quayne because, I don't know if he was the one that made the offer. I can only assume that he was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like he was reaching out to everyone for running backs.
Yeah, but to even throw that out there, a dude that you drafted 7th round and offer it for somebody that you knew got drafted in the 3rd round, I mean, that's pretty ballsy. And then it gets accepted, and then I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? Like, what am I missing? Like, I don't understand it. Like, I was
Mikey's
speechless.
flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted.
I still don't understand it, and I mean, we'll see what happens, but I mean, it's a big fat 0 from Brandon Ayuk in the first week this week, and so that's already not looking good. Yeah, I just bad all the way around. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, give credit. I like how you put that. Credit to Quayne, who that's how, I feel like that's how all negotiations work, right? You kind of lowball someone and you kind of work your way up. And I even told Miles at some point, like, you probably could have held out and gotten something better. But
Yeah, this is the equivalent
instead he
of
just went with the first pick or the first offer.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of somebody saying, "Here, I'm going to give you $70 for your $30." Okay.
That's pretty good. That's good,
I, I, like I don't know.
I don't know if there's a better way to put it than that. That's pretty clever. I like that. But that makes sense. A 7th round pick for a 3rd round pick. Because I'm sure when we got our trades, we're like, why would we trade when I could have drafted Brandon Ayuk a round or 2 later than the guy you're trying to snag from me? But it happened. And I don't want to crap on Miles too much. But after the draft, then you it's hard to say that because you don't know how your draft is going to pan out, and maybe it didn't pan out the way he wanted. And maybe he felt like his wide receiver situation wasn't good enough. I don't know if that's just looking at his draft now. He drafted Cooper, DJ Moore, and Cortland Sutton in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, and felt like he needed an Ayuk too. So
I just feel like if you're going to draft somebody in the 3rd round, because 3rd round was early for him. There's no doubt about that. But
for sure, he reached out and he says so as well.
But it's got to be somebody that obviously that you liked. Like if you're going to reach for somebody, you usually reach for somebody that you like because you want that guy on your team. That's what it didn't make sense to me. But I don't know.
Such is. We'll see how it pans out, and hopefully we get to talk about it later and find out who won that trade. So let's get into this injury news, and we'll try to go through it a little quickly. But the top news for those Bronco fans: Jerry Jeudy out for I guess it's 8 weeks now. I guess what Todd was saying last thing I saw was 4 to 6 weeks, but that was yesterday. But probably the best news we could have gotten that situation, the way it kind of looked and the way they carted him off. But Jerry Jeudy, high ankle sprain. It looked like he may have broken his ankle based on the footage from all the different angles that make me want to puke. But he ended up being only a sprain. So does that mean that we should be trying to reach out? I saw that someone has, I think Todd actually has KJ Hamler, but Tim Patrick's still out there. Or should we be high up on these guys, Miguel?
KJ Hamler, that one was a tough one because he may get one chance at something big each game. It's not, I'm not really that high on that from a fantasy spot. But yeah, Tim Patrick has value. Like, second receiver in the offense, Sutton's still kind of slow coming back from injury. So until Jeudy gets back, Tim Patrick is roster worthy.
Okay. So keep an eye out for that as the waivers. I'm sure that by the time you hear this, the waivers have already gone through, but maybe he doesn't get picked up and maybe you need some help at wide receiver for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Then if you feel good about that Broncos offense, you scored 27 points on the road, then maybe that's something you could pick up. Some more injury news. Ryan Fitzpatrick on the IR with a hip injury. That's funny just because it's an old man, and that's what happens to old men. They deal with hip injuries. And so Taylor Heineke came in and 22 points. So I don't know if that's exciting. And for all those Washington folks out there, maybe the fantasy, I don't know, prospects go down a little bit. And speaking of the not the Redskins, excuse me about that. Washington football team, Antonio Gibson out, or at least questionable for next week with a shoulder injury. So keep an eye on that. Or if you're looking for a backup running back, check out the backups over there in Washington. You might know what the Washington backups are. Is like J.D. McKissick. So if he's out there, I think he's on someone's team. So
yeah, he's on my team.
Well, there you go. So maybe Todd benefits from that. One that was a big blow to Miguel, and I'm sure he saw the news. We were texting about it last night, but then saw the news that he's actually it went from 8 weeks with chipped cartilage in his knee. He's actually saying he's out for the entire year. He wants to get surgery get the right surgery so that he will be ready for next year. So, man, Mikey, that stinks. Raheem Mostert, who you ended up, you drafted in the 6th round. Oh, goodness, as your 3rd running back. And I don't know what the deal is. Maybe you could tell us what's the deal with Trey Sermon, who was a healthy scratch, and what's next for Mikey in his running back situation.
I don't know what.
And
the
you don't
deal
have to
is
tell
with
us who
the
you're
healthy
picking up if
scratch.
you're looking to pick up anyone. What's that?
I don't know what the deal was with the healthy scratch. I'm sure he'll be active this week. I also saw they signed Kerryon Johnson too. So I mean,
ooh, carry on. Right on.
yeah. So 49ers love their multiple running backs. So we'll see what happens. It's a blow for my team. I was hoping Mostert would stay healthy and have a good season, but that's obviously not going to happen. So, I mean, we'll just see what happens. I mean, I had Mark Ingram still, and he had a very good first week. Looked like he was getting the red zone touches too. So, I mean, that's always an option.
All right. Michael Gallup out 3 to 4 weeks with a calf issue. So myself with Dak and those who have, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, looks like they may get a few more targets with a Gallup out for a little while. We'll see if Saquon Barkley is back next week dealing with a knee issue. Man, the injuries just continue to pile up for that guy. And speaking of Brandon Ayuk, hamstring issues these days. He's questionable for next weekend. Now, these are some of these questionables are early in the week. A lot can change, but just some of those things that popped up. Did I miss anybody? Those are the main ones. I don't know if I missed anybody from today.
I don't think so. I think
Guess
that's
not.
everybody.
Good. All right. So, matchup recap. Let's get into what happened this past week amongst our team, in our Mile High Affiliates podcast. I'll quickly go through these, and we can talk about them, especially with your particular team. We'll just start with me because mine was probably the least exciting of the bunch, but Lemonhead's taking care of business against Bishop Sycamore. A good old 75 points from Dak Prescott really helped that out, and got some help from my chief options as well. Sycamore put up a decent 138, got 50 from Stafford, 31 from Cooper, but Lemonhead, just a lot of things going right for him last week. We can talk about the Gonzo Cats and the Butterfingers, 128 to 91. Todd with the lowest score of the week. And who do we have to blame for that, Todd?
Matt Ryan, who if I ever see walking down the street, I'll punch him in his face. No, it was bad. It was bad. It was just it. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know. That is just, it's ridiculous. Of like 27 points. Are you serious? Now he did have more points than Aaron Rodgers, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I just don't know what to say. That is just, it's mind boggling. It is just mind boggling that 27 points. I mean, come on.
Is it mind boggling?
I know you went
a very roller coaster quarterback. I had him for the beginning of last year. You were sitting right next to me when he was not doing well, and I would be upset about it. So you can't be super surprised about it.
You're right. I shouldn't be, but I always think like, okay, he has a bad season, and the next season he comes like. I know that's. I shouldn't think that way, but it's the way I think sometimes. But anyway,
your boy Aaron Jones let you down too.
2 points did not help. I mean, it looked like the whole Packers team just looked like they didn't even want to be there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers only had 16 points. 16 points.
Continuing on the matchup recap, Cooper's Cousins in a low-scoring affair with Kilgore Trout, 112 to 101. Tannehill, 36 points. Mixon with 23. On the other side, poor Kilgore Trout. You mentioned the 16 from Rodgers. It's just not a great day. That's all right. It's only week 1. Continuing on, you talk about maybe the matchup of the week in terms of just a high-scoring affair and kind of going back and forth. We talk about Eaton W's and the Belt Sanders, 166 to 154. A lot of big scores on this, especially for Eaton W's, who, I mean, you just go down his lineup with Brady and Hopkins and Thielen and Chubb and Gaskin. They all did really well. Same thing for the Belt Sanders. Got a good day out of the Seattle crew. But it was Eaton W's who eked it out despite the -4. Man, Packers team all around was scrappy yesterday. Even the defense was -4. One of the matchups that went down to the very end, we have a couple of those, but we'll get to Mikey's here in a second. But Lion Rip falls to NWA, a rematch of the championship from 2020. And going into it, I know Aaron was feeling okay about it, and he had to within 4 at one point, and thought maybe Andrews just get a couple catches, get some yards, and try to win this thing, especially when it went into overtime. When you get that feeling like, oh, the game is about to be over, but then you get the field goal to tie it up, and maybe there's a chance. Maybe you can pick up some garbage points here, but that just didn't end up being the case for Andrews. So 128-22 for NWA, 48 from Josh Allen, 16 from Jacobs, who had 2 touchdowns in that matchup. That that definitely helped him out a ton to beat Aaron in the rematch of the championship. And then we'll go to Mikey, and I'll let Mikey tell his story in his matchup with CUP. And how are you feeling going into Monday night? And then overtime was, I'm just sure, a wild roller coaster ride for Mikey Renault in this one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, after Cooper Kupp did what he did on Sunday night game, like, I honestly felt like my chance of coming anywhere close to beating Quayne was very, very small. So, like, I mean, I wasn't even like looking at the score or looking at like Waller's catches or anything up until like maybe tail end of the third quarter of that game. And I just, I decided to take a look, and I was like, man, I'm not that far off. Like, if the Raiders can score here, the great thing about it is as they kept, Waller scoring, and especially when he scored that touchdown, it also decreased his defense. So it was just like kind of a double good thing for me. And it eventually got to the point where it was like, okay, this is a 1-point game. This is doable, and then it almost seemed like too good to be true. Like, the Raiders, after Baltimore scores, the Raiders like, okay, just need like a catch and maybe some yards. I get the 2 to get the win. He doesn't get anything, but they get the tying field goal. I'm like, okay, this thing's going to overtime. The Raiders get the toss. This is fantastic. They drive down the field. I don't even need Waller in this scenario. All I need is the Raiders to score. So, they get what looked like to be a touchdown. I was like, all right, this is a touchdown. I won, because it would have given the negative points.
And the game was over.
Yeah, didn't get it. But they have the ball at the 1 yard line.
Taken away for those who didn't watch the game. They scored a touchdown and it was taken off the board, saying that the receiver was down by contact.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was down.
So then, then it's at the 1, and I'm like, okay, perfect. They can either run this in, win the game, or even if they get a field goal in this scenario and the Ravens get the ball back, it's okay, because that field goal knocked 2 points off and I'll have the lead. It's the worst thing that can happen. The only thing that can screw it up is a turnover. So then what happened?
Which shouldn't happen from the 1 yard line.
Exactly. So,
but then there was a false start and it moved it back. Yeah.
and then they throw it off some dude's helmet, and of course it gets picked, which gives them the 2 points. It's just like, when that happened, I'm like, even when the Raiders got the ball back after that, because like it was like perfect scenario where like it wasn't going to happen for me, because they got the ball back on a turnover instead of forcing a punt. So it's not like I felt like they were going to throw the ball, at least to give Waller a chance to come back at that point. I was like, they're just going to kick a field goal and win. But even that didn't happen. Then they throw a touchdown. It ends up going to Zay Jones. So it's just like, it was a great game. But
for sure.
It was like somebody saying, here, it's like giving me a gift and then, taking it right back saying, ha, we got you. So that kind of feeling.
What are you, an Indian giver? I'm not familiar with that term. Yeah, for sure. It was crazy to watch. I'm glad I didn't have to, because there was a lot of craziness in the game. The game started off kind of slow. And I thought, well, this is going to be a boring Monday Night Football. And it got good real quick. And just the scenario of John Gruden and his decisions and all the craziness that ensued made it for a really interesting game. It was like 9:00 and the game's about to be over, and I was going to go to my room and read until I fell asleep, and I was like, this game just got interesting for the next hour. It took an hour for all that stuff to get through. So crazy, for sure. Anything else you want to say about your matchup here? Patrick Mahomes really really proved his. I mean, 65 from Patrick Mahomes, 62 from Kyler Murray. So a couple of amazing quarterbacks going at it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's to be expected. Like, honestly, what killed is Mostert getting hurt in the first quarter. That
yeah.
obviously hurt me really, really bad. And then, Julio dropping a touchdown and then not playing very well on top of it. Not good.
Darren
So,
Waller's good
yeah.
though. Darren
Yeah,
Waller's
no,
good though.
19 targets. I mean, that's amazing.
19 flipping targets. Like 7 of them came in like the first 2 drives or something. It was just unreal. They were force feeding him the ball. They were making plays, just for him to get him the ball. And I thought, man, oh man, let me tell you, Mike and I know it's great to have an amazing tight end. It makes your life a little easier. Sure, we're struggling at maybe other positions, but tight end is not going to be one of them. So as I get back to my screen here, just a quick standing so far. A lot of 1-0s, a lot of 0-1s. Lemonhead with the most points scored with 187. Then Eaton W's, CUP, Gonzo Cats, NWA, Cooper's Cousins, all 0-1. Belt Sanders, Tamales, all right, Lion Rip, Sycamore, Trout, and Butterfingers all at 0-1. But we have a lot more weeks left to go. So let's talk about some top performances of the week. Todd, who stood out to you in week 1?
Probably I'll go with Jameis Winston. 5 touchdowns. Just didn't see that one coming. I mean, just especially against Green Bay. I mean, I know Green Bay's defense isn't great per se. It's not top tier, but yeah, Jameis Winston. I give it to him. I mean, that's the top performer and a surprise, but and two, probably the surprise is, yeah, he threw 5 touchdowns, but no interceptions. So
Very
I give it
true.
to Jameis. I give it to Jameis Winston on that one. I know the obvious one probably Kyler Murray or Dak Prescott, but Jameis Winston. I mean, I know, and 2, I don't know, that doesn't always factor it into sometimes, but it was like in a neutral site too, because it wasn't in Green Bay and it wasn't in New Orleans. So I don't know if that was if that was in favor of anybody, but I just thought of that. The fact that it wasn't, no team really had home field advantage per se.
Yeah, Winston with 52 points, just 14 completions. But I mean, that's 52 points, finished as a top 10 quarterback. Mikey, who you got for me?
I'm not going to go with somebody that's the third quarterback on somebody's bench for top performer. For me, it's going to be somebody that actually made a difference, and that's going to be Dak Prescott, someone that I liked in our quarterbacks podcast. He's coming off an injury. He didn't show like he was coming off an injury, and they weren't playing it safe with him. I mean, 75 points right out of the gate. I'm sure Eric was just ecstatic with that. I mean, 42 completions is just flipping amazing. Another game over 400 yards, which is picking up right off of what he did last year. They got a lot of weapons, and I know Gallup's hurt, but this is going to be a team that throws the ball because their defense is still garbage. So Dak Prescott gets my top performance of the week.
Yeah, as you guys know, I didn't get to watch that game. I was actually working and setting the gym up for the weekend, but you always look on your phone to see if those Yahoo notifications come in, but to see the 42 completions is unreal. Zeke was not, I don't know if he wasn't very effective. They didn't give him a lot of carries, but Dak threw and he destroyed him for sure. And you could throw Amari Cooper in there as well as one of the top performances, although in a losing effort against me, but 13 receptions and 2 touchdowns is pretty incredible as well. You can mention Tyreek Hill on my squad, who had 26 points, which is just crazy. Before I get to Tyreek Hill, I was just going to say there are 8 quarterbacks that had 60 or more points this weekend with Hurts. That's a kind of that might be a surprise we talk about. But Tom Brady was 67, Kirk Cousins was 62. So a lot of good quarterback performances. But yeah, Cooper was the top wide receiver. Tyreek Hill 26 receptions. Man, oh man, he just looks so good. Just get him in open space as well. Anybody else you guys want to mention before we move on to the worst performance of the week?
I'll go with Joe Mixon, 23 points for the Bengals. I mean, obviously that game was, that game was very exciting, but 33 touches for 150 yards. Oh, excuse me, 127 yards. Excuse me. So Joe Mixon definitely. I mean, I wasn't very high on Mixon, but it definitely helps the running game and it helps the passing. His running game helps the passing game. So I'll go Joe Mixon.
Yeah, the thing about Joe Mixon stands out was 29 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! And Mikey said this throughout the kind of the preseason podcast year, whatever you want to call it. So Joe Mixon was going to get all the love. He was going to get all the carries and all the attention, and boy, he definitely showed it. I mean, you hope for a little more than 4 targets in the receiving department, but he's the man, and he led all running backs with 23 points. McCaffrey there with 22. Yeah. So interesting. TJ Hawkinson was a guy I thought that was the last guy on my list. 20 points, 8 receptions, 97 yards. He was a guy I was high on going into the season. I know none of us are super excited about Detroit's offense. They ended up showing a little something against those 49ers late in the game, but TJ Hawkinson, pretty good. Mikey, you want to give me a crappy performance? Who really pooped themselves this week?
Yeah, Mo, that team sure did suck last night. They just plain sucked. I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
Oh, this is called the T.Y. Hilton Award.
Oh, is that what we should call it going forward? We'll talk to T.Y.'s people and see if they're okay with that.
I was going to go with Matt Ryan, but I'm not going to. Because honestly, Matt Ryan was Todd's, 6th round pick. So I'm going to go with his 1st round pick in Aaron Jones. Like, Aaron Jones was terrible. I mean, 2 points. He only had 9 rushing yards, 2 receptions for 13 yards. I mean, that whole Green Bay team was stinky, but Aaron Jones was especially crap. Like, I mean, yeah, he was terrible, just terrible.
Did you hear that, Todd? Terrible.
Yeah, I know. I felt the terribleness as that 2 just stared me in the face, laughing at me. Tis my life.
Who do you got, Todd? Who's your worst performer of the week?
I'll go with Justin Jefferson. Now I know a lot of those targets and points went to Adam Thielen, but Justin Jefferson, again, a lot of obviously what he did last season coming into this season, only 9 points, and if he's going to be the number 1 guy going forward, yeah, that's not very good. You're expecting a little bit more than you're at least expecting double digits out of Justin Jefferson. So, see if he bounces back this coming Sunday. But yeah, 9 points. That's not good.
Nope, definitely not. One of the ones I had, you guys mentioned, we talked about Matt Ryan. I said I had Green Bay's offense in general. Devontae Adams even just 7 points. But one guy that stood out to me, I know Aaron was super high on, but Mark Andrews. I know it was a weird type of game, and I don't know, for as many points and overtime, for him to only have 4 or 3 receptions for 20 yards, I figured he'd be a bigger part of that offense. Good old Marquise Brown still doing it, Mikey. How about that? I'm just kidding. But Mark Andrews, it's a long way from Travis Kelce, Aaron. That's all I'll say. For sure. Anybody else? Mikey, you got anybody else? Had a bad week. I mean, there was
a lot of crap out there. I mean, I talked about, Julio Jones being kind of crap, but how about Kyle Pitts? I know he's a rookie and all, but
who's this? I'm sorry, you kind of broke up there.
Kyle Pitts. So,
okay, yeah.
Him being a rookie, you may want to give him a little bit of a break, but I'm not willing to, I mean, you're talking about, a guy that was very highly drafted. I mean, he was taken at the very top of the 4th round. you just expect a little more than the 5 points that he got, and that goes along with the Atlanta offense just being crap. But I'm gonna go Kyle Pitts.
Any last one from you, Todd, before we move on?
I guess just might as well just keep crapping on my team myself here. James Robinson, only 6 points. Because obviously I know, with Trevor Lawrence being a rookie, you'd think they would kind of lean on the running game a little bit more, but I mean, obviously they want, they want to see what Trevor Lawrence has, but James Robinson, obviously, again, another one of those, rookies coming, from, coming into the season, obviously what he did last year, and, coming from being undrafted in real life and undrafted in fantasy, to kind of come out a little stale, it's not good. And obviously his matchup isn't very good for next week because plays the Broncos next week. And, we did a very good job of stopping Saquon Barkley. So, James Robinson isn't Saquon Barkley, but obviously Saquon, coming off a major injury too. So you have to think about that factor. But, very disappointed in James Robinson because James Robinson was my drafted him in the 4th round. He was my second running back, and they only put up 6 points. Again, I mean, but my whole team just pretty much shit the bed. So what it is.
Yeah, a couple of last guys. Go ahead, Mikey.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, something we speculated on a little bit with that James Robinson thing. I think I mentioned in the running backs podcast, Urban Meyer bringing in Carlos Hyde, his old Ohio State running back, ended up getting more carries than James Robinson. That's not
Urban
a good thing.
Urban Meyer's an idiot. He needs to stop. He needs to stop thinking about these players as his buddies and start thinking about the players that are, that are the playmakers, and give the ball to their playmakers. So that's what I'll say. That's all I'll say about that.
Some last guys, Mike Evans, despite the team scoring 31 points, just 3 receptions, 24 yards. Not super surprising. He'll have weeks where he does almost next to nothing and then pop out with 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. Zeke, we kind of mentioned, wasn't great. Cortland Sutton with just 1 point. I don't know if that's going to change now with Judy gone, but a lot of Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler, Noah Fant out there. I don't know if he's just Teddy Bridgewater didn't like going to him. It's obviously just 1 game, but something to think about as well. All right, so Mikey, why don't you give me a surprise of the week?
I'm kind of going to go here with TJ Hawkinson only because I know that he's graded out to be like a better tight end, but like San Francisco was a really, really good defense. I did not expect him to come out and throw up 20 points right off the bat like that. So, I mean, he had a really, really good game. 8 catches, 97 yards, the touchdown, and the 2-point conversion to go on top of that. I know it didn't turn out in a win for Kilgore, but, I mean, he's got to be ecstatic about that coming from him.
Yeah, Kilgore is pretty high on him. Even he wasn't there, and he gave me a list, and I think he kind of saw the upside like I did. I mean, to have 10 targets is pretty incredible. I think that's the second most there behind Darren Waller in week 1. Todd, surprise of the week from you.
I'll go with, and this is a player that I wasn't very high on, but Miles Sanders. Now, granted, they were playing the Falcons, and the Falcons don't play defense. We all know that. But, for Miles Sanders, 14 points, 74 yards rushing. I mean, it doesn't, but the thing with him is it's, always injury. I know I bring that up every single time for every podcast, but, they were looking like they were going, they were going to him, a good decent amount of time. So I'm thinking with Jalen Hurns or whatever, that he's going to be the running threat, even if they're at the goal line or whatever. But, Miles Sanders, 14 points. That's, that to me is, that was a little bit of a surprise to me. I know it's not an astronomical number, but I think just the where he was ranked in preseason rankings to get 14 points, that's pretty good.
All right. I'm surprised you didn't say your boy Tyson Williams, who 16 points and had a pretty good day.
Well, the only reason I didn't surprise because they got nobody else.
Sure, but that doesn't mean they're good. You know, I mean, just because they're on the team doesn't mean they should put up 16 points. And I don't know if that's his first game or whatever, but that stood out to me. You can talk about Eli Mitchell from San Francisco. I guess it doesn't matter who you put back there behind that offensive line. He came in for the hurt Mostert, and as we mentioned, Sermon, not a healthy scratch, supposedly 16 points from Eli Mitchell, 19 carries, 104 yards, and a TD. No catches, but 19 carries. It's not a bad thing to have on your squad. The one that jumped out to me, and this is probably just because I wasn't super high on him, but how about Jalen Hurts? We were all I felt like we were all, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I felt like we were all very low on the Philadelphia offense. And I know experts really liked him because he could run the ball, and he did run for 62 yards. So that's 6 points right there. But 27 completions, 3 touchdowns, making Devonta Smith, the Heisman winner from last year, look really good with his 6 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown. But 61 points. And you could also throw Jared Goff in that mix, who was the second highest quarterback with 72. 38 completions. And I know they had to come from behind. And can we expect similar numbers from these guys going forward, Miguel, and Jared Goff and Jalen Hurts?
Absolutely not. I'm just being honest with you. We know the story of Jared Goff. I mean, Jekyll and Hyde as it comes, Good one week, absolutely terrible the next. He cannot be trusted whatsoever. And he's on a bad team with no receivers except for Hawkinson. With Jalen Hurts, I believe there's some talent there, but I don't want to get too high on the guy considering he was playing Atlanta, who notoriously is bad, especially against the pass. So I give him his credit for this week, but I'd wait and see for Jalen Hurts.
All right. One last one from me. It is the highest scoring tight end of the week. It wasn't Travis Kelce, wasn't Darren Waller, wasn't TJ Hawkinson. Who was it, guys?
It was wasn't it that Jawan Johnson from New Orleans?
No, he was 5th. Who was the highest scoring tight end, Miguel?
Oof.
Oh, come on, fellas. First game of the week.
Oh, it was Gronk.
Gronkowski of old showing up. 8 targets, 8 receptions, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the Belt Sanders bench. That could have really helped him out in that really close matchup. But man, oh man, how about Gronk leading all tight ends in points? So I'm not sure what he did in the offseason or if this is just one of those one-offs against
Dallas, terrible against tight ends.
Yeah, and they get Atlanta next week. So
there you go.
And I just went to the Belt Sanders team, and he's got Gronkin over Kittle right now. So interesting to think for those who don't have a tight end, maybe this is a chance to buy low on George Kittle. So just think about that, Todd, going forward.
It's hard to get away from a 49er away from Allen, though. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, but if he's feeling good about Gronk, and he's got Leonard Fournette as second running back, he might be able to upgrade that second running back if someone's willing to give him some. I know it's tough to get running backs off of people, but I don't know. Maybe he's just playing matchups too, because Kittle's got Philadelphia next week. But that's something to think about for those owners out there. All right, time for the dough of the week. Who's going to win it this week, guys?
Can we just go with Todd's team?
Is it Todd because he could have picked up any other quarterback and may have had a chance to win? No, it's not going to be Todd this week.
No, Todd.
Because he had Mac Jones and he had 46, so I don't think that would have done it. No, is it Mikey who lost by 1 single point?
Could be. I'd be in the running. Although, really, it's hard to say, well, who would you have played? Would you really have played Mark Ingram over Mostert, or Najee Harris? No, not really.
Probably not. Is it Aaron and NWA? 6 points there for Lion Rip. Did he have someone on the bench that could have helped him out in a big way. I mean, it's hard to put anybody ahead of Barkley. I mean, because everybody else really did well from outside of Andrews and Barkley. I mean, I guess he could have started Kirk Cousins over Joe Burrow. 62 points for Kirk Cousins. That's 20-point difference right there.
Yeah.
So maybe in the running. I mean, I know he drafted Burrow before Kirk Cousins, but that could be the winner. Or I mean, we could give it to Belt Sanders who didn't start Gronk, but who would have started Gronk over George Kittle? I don't think any of us would have done that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. I'm just looking through Allen's bench, and really that's the only thing that stood out. So I think it's going to have to be our Dero Rumi over here. Tough to give it out because it's just that's that first week, and you're going to play the guys that drafted. But we got to hand it to someone, and that's a 20-point difference between quarterbacks. So sorry, Rumi. It looks like you're going to have to get it here for week 1.
No! Don't!
He'll turn things around. Hopefully not in your next week opponent, because that's going to be me, and that's what we'll go to here on next week's schedule. The roommates go toe-to-toe, Lemonheads versus Line Rip. Someone between you two is going to go 0-2. Hot tamales and Butterfingers.
Spoiler, it's going to be Todd.
Oh, joy. Joy.
Oh, Todd's not saying no. I feel like he's already making his bed, but he's already going 0-2.
No, I'm just saying of all the teams I had to play in week 2. Oh, Lord Mighty. Oh well, I'll see how it goes. See how my team responds. I'll pray to some fantasy football gods. Sacrifice something. We'll see. But I'm feeling good. I like I said. I said at the beginning.
I don't believe him. I don't believe you at all. You know what? You just said that. I feel good. Usually, when your voice goes up, it means you're not feeling good. Mikey, are you feeling good about your team?
Yeah, I feel great about my team. Yeah,
see, that's how you come with it. That's the conviction.
I'm looking forward to whooping Todd around this week. It'll give me great pleasure.
I'm using reverse psychology, okay? Because that's how sometimes I win. Because I use reverse psychology. If I kind of really just psych myself out and just it's like, yeah, we'll just see whatever happens, and then I end up winning. So
you're saying you're using it on yourself, because that crap don't work with me.
So one of these teams is going to go 0-2 after week 2. Bishop Sycamore and Belt Sanders both 0-1. Cooper's Cousins versus the NWA, a matchup of 1-0s going toe-to-toe. Eaton W's and Gonzo Cats, both of those guys 1-0. And Kilgore Trout and Notorious CUP. CUP 1-0, Kilgore Trout 0-1, and then we'll be in week 2, gentlemen. All right. Ready for this?
Yeah.
Any last words you want to say before we get out of here? It could be anything about the NFL week 1. It could be about the draft. What's on your mind? We got about 3 or 4 minutes. Everybody's just ready for week 2.
Yeah.
Ready to roll.
Ready to go. I mean, it got to get this bad taste out of my mouth. It's gross. It's gross.
What, you mean the taste of losing?
Yes, the face of losing. Yes.
Good luck with Mac Jones.
Thanks, Mikey. Appreciate that. Yeah, but it should be good though. I guess be all. Maybe it was just some week 1 jitters, maybe, or something like that. Team just needs to figure it out, and some other teams will figure it out too. We'll see. See what happens. We'll see if anybody else makes any more trades or.
Todd, are you going to go make a trade for a quarterback?
No, because here's the thing. Without telling you I did put in a waiver claim for a quarterback. So.
Okay.
So we'll see. I'll do my research on the 3 of them, and I'm looking at each one of the matchups. I mean, I was going to tell you the third quarterback, but Mac Jones does have the better matchup, on paper, because they're playing the Jets. So that should be, and 2 should help my defense too a little bit. But the way the NFL is, that's why they play the game and not on the field, not on paper. So you can have all the numbers and analytics to the ends of the earth, but sometimes it doesn't work. Just like, when you talk about, drafting players and doing all this research, sometimes the research doesn't always help all the time, and kind of backfires on you. So what it is, but I will do my homework here tomorrow and until Sunday to see what which quarterback has the best option for me, and then be ready to go to play Mikey.
Todd's
I'm not
ready.
convinced. I'm not convinced whatsoever.
One last thing I'll say before we go, and this is for all the owners that love to reach on defenses. Do you guys know who the top defense was after week 1? Any
I think
clue?
it was Arizona.
That's correct. Well done, Miguel. I was hoping I have to sit here for too long, but 17 points, not drafted. The second highest scoring team, New Orleans, 15, not drafted. Third team, in terms of points after week 1, Pittsburgh, who I drafted in the second to last round. And the fourth team, Carolina, 12 points, not drafted. So for those who just love to spend up on, now it's just 1 week, but defenses are strange and weird. And sometimes I get what Aaron says in terms of like you can stream them a little bit better based on matchups, and that's true to an extent, but it's a crapshoot. Especially at the beginning of the season, we have no idea how these teams are going to look. And I mean, I guess we have an idea how they're going to look, but how they're going to play, how it's going to pan out. They're going to have new coaches, new defensive coordinators. Just stop drafting them so early, especially with all these running backs. I mean, we had 15 running backs drafted in the first 2 rounds. You got to load up on those guys. I know it's not sexy to pick up Tevin Coleman, and he was terrible, but you need those guys because they could just pan out. You just don't know. And then if you have a running back go down with an injury, or if there's a one out in the waiver wire world or something of that nature, like you didn't even have to worry about the waiver wire if you would have just picked them up and hope for the best. But people love the sexy sound of the Washington defense or the Baltimore defense and the San Francisco defense, and they stink. They stink.
Stink. Gross.
I guess San Francisco wasn't as terrible. They were 5th. I think I'm having a touchdown. Yeah, that's right. But so just last thoughts from me. Tight defenses. Always interesting. All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks for coming on here on a Tuesday night. We'll try to get this out here by tomorrow so we can get ready for the next week, week 2. MHA. Thanks for coming on. Mikey Renaud, Todd Diamond. I'm Eric Lansing. We'll see you next time on the MHA podcast.